President Biden keeps up a brutal schedule. There is no question that there is a tremendous difference, and this is understating it incredibly, between the amount of work that he puts in a day compared to former President Trump and his executive time.
Right.
Biden and Dr. Jill Biden, they are very giving of themselves. They show up at everything. They give their time. And I mean, it's part of his kindness. It's part of his political instincts. I know you would be exhausted if you had a schedule and probably would take some days off, or I would, you know.
Wow. First and foremost, the bar is exceptionally low when you're comparing how much work President Biden is doing to Donald Trump. I mean, come on now. The bar is in hell. But what really stood out to me is her saying that Biden goes everywhere and talks to people. But let's pull up this headline from The Hill, because I think there's a group of people who would like to have a word with him, and that is the people of East Palestine, because he still hasn't visited these people. By now it's May, and the toxic train derailment happened in February. He still hasn't visited these people. So I guess he's not going everywhere and talking to everybody. But if you're having to hype up Biden again by saying that he works so hard, and on top of that, you're comparing him to possibly the laziest president in modern history, Donald Trump. And in modern history, we also had George W. Bush. So that's a high threshold for laziness. But you're really not helping Biden's cause. And it's similar to what Fox News and Newsmax do when it comes to Trump. It's just, it feels like hyped up propaganda. It doesn't feel genuine. And it's really not something that people who actually do work really hard are gonna be able to connect to. I'm sure that someone who has to work 12-hour shifts as a nurse in a hospital isn't gonna be like, yeah, I'm sure that Biden's working much harder than I am. I mean, come on now. I mean, it feels very removed from the lived experience of working class people in this country, but what else would I expect from the co-host of Morning Joe? But if Biden were more giving of his time, he would listen to what the American people are saying. And one thing they're saying is that he should not run again for president, something I've been saying pretty loudly for a long time. But let's look at this reporting from The Hill. It says 70% of Americans think Biden shouldn't seek a second term, including 51% of Democrats. 48% of those who said he shouldn't run again cited his age as a major reason. Presidents shouldn't get brownie points and they shouldn't get gold stars for going to events, or doing little speaking engagements or traveling the country, because that's exactly what they're supposed to be doing. But who does actually deserve that praise? The American people, the hardworking American people. Let's pull up this headline. It says the United States is the most overworked, developed nation in the world. And it is frustrating to see, MSNBC do some, and I wouldn't compare them exactly to Fox News. I wouldn't say they are the, Democratic Party's version of Fox News. I think that they do present things typically a lot more factually than Fox News does, to their credit. But when it comes to these types of, shows where they're just sort of giving their opinion in long form and essentially, just stroking Biden off, the idea that his schedule is jam-packed, it's grotesque and it's really divorced from what the, American people and the average, Democrat supporter wants to see in a presidential candidate or the president himself. Dan, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I wouldn't usually go this low, but yeah, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough are technically married, and I think Mika was giving Joe Biden more action than Joe Scarborough's been getting in a while, just based on his face during that entire segment. I'm like, are we good there? Joe's like, hey, Scarborough's like, hey man, let me get on this. Come on, what's all this? Even that little dig at the end, that's like, I know you would be exhausted, which is like hey man, I'm just gonna, but no, like, when you were saying, why are we giving presidents all this credit for talking and going to meetings when, by the way, they're already not doing it, reminded me, and you're mentioning, Bush was like this, Trump was like this, remind me of the Bush phrase, soft bigotry of low expectations. Because yeah, we should have presidents working harder because our people are working even harder than that.
Exactly, yeah, and it does feel really annoying to see these presidents getting brownie points for just being mildly competent and being, oh, look, President Biden drove himself somewhere today. He rode his bike and he didn't fall over. Gold star for him.